Governor Christie, thank you so much for sitting down and having this conversation with AARP New Hampshire.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Let's talk about an issue that's so important to so many here in the Granite State, and that is Social Security. Could you lay out and describe your plan for helping to update it and keep it solvent for the next several decades?
Sure. I mean, first we need to understand it's in a crisis. Harvard and Dartmouth put out a study just a few months ago that said it's 7 to 8 years before Social Security insolvency. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable to the people who have paid into the system over their lifetime, counting on it being there. It's unacceptable from my perspective for folks who have worked hard, played by the rules, and need this for their retirement. So we have to address it. And so we try to address it in a really straightforward way. First is in a positive direction, which is, we're living longer. The average life expectancy of a woman now in America is 83 years old, and the average life expectancy of a man is 79. And these programs were designed for when people died in their early 60s. So we have a lot longer time on Social Security and a lot longer time in retirement. That's good, but we need to raise the retirement age. Now, that wouldn't affect anybody that's on Social Security today. But for new folks, we want to raise the 2 years and phase it in over 25 years. So simply put, it's a 1-month increase in eligibility a year for 25 years. This won't affect current seniors or even seniors that are very close to starting Social Security. But what it will do is for folks like my children, it'll make this program more solvent from an actuary perspective and make sure it's there for them. Second, big important thing we want to do on Social Security is to honestly have a conversation with the American people and say, if you make over $200,000 a year in retirement income, you've stopped working, it means that you've got at least $4 to $5 million in liquid assets to throw off that kind of income. Do you really need a Social Security check? I mean, will it really, that check once a month, will it really change your lifestyle at all? My suggestion is it won't. And then I think that most Americans who have had that kind of success, first of all, God bless them for having that kind of success, raising a family of $4 or $5 million in the bank. God bless America for giving them the opportunity to do it. But I think those folks will say, you know what, Social Security needs to be there. It needs to be there for the folks who it's a difference between rent and heat and food. It needs to be there for the people who are counting on it as their main source of income in their retirement. And so we would do that on Social Security. Those two steps alone would lead Social Security to a long-term solvency without having to increase taxes on anyone in this country and with making sure that benefits still went to those people who really needed them.
You've been able to talk about this plan to audiences here in New Hampshire. Several town hall meetings, you're asked about it. What's the reaction you're getting from voters when you lay out this plan? What are they saying to you?
The reaction is generally good. A lot of nodding heads in the audience. People understand. Politicians generally underestimate the intelligence and the informed nature of the American population. They know that Social Security is in a crisis. They know it's a problem. They're worried about it. They want to hear someone speak to them honestly about it and not pander to them. And so that's what I've done. Now, every once in a while I get some people yelling back at me. I was at a place called Shooter's Pub in Exeter. I had a guy yell at me, hey, it's my money, I want it back. And I said, well, are you going to make over $200,000 in retirement? And he said, no. And I said, well, then you're going to get it back. But here's the thing. The government has lied to the people of this country and stolen from them. There's no money in the trust fund. The trust fund's filled with IOUs. And so the idea that our money is still sitting there is folly. It's not there. And that's why I think we have to work on the benefit side of these things for the folks who are most fortunate. And when you talk to people about that, they say that's common sense, and I've gotten very good reaction.
Your plan is certainly a compromise, balance kind of plan. You're trying to hit that middle area within this debate that's been going on for years. Once you're elected president and you have to take this plan to Capitol Hill, how do you get it through?
Well, I think that was the idea of starting at St. Anselm's all the way back in the spring, talking about this. Because if I'm elected President of the United States, there will be no doubt that this will get a thorough vetting. And that if the American people vote for me, I'm going to be able to go to Capitol Hill and say, the American people supported this idea. They could not have voted for me if my first speech in a run for president was about this. I talked about it all the way through an 18-month campaign. And now you're telling me that they don't support it? Of course they do. It'll be hard. But it's like any difficult piece of legislation. What it's going to require the president is stick-to-itiveness and hard work and persuasiveness, and I'll do okay.
Do you think the environment in Washington is going to be receptive in the future, given the type of debates we're having on the campaign trail, given the type of campaign that we're seeing on the Republican national side of things for this primary? Do you think people will be more receptive to ideas and compromise than they seem to be right now?
I think they will. I think if we get a Republican president and maintain a Republican Congress, it's going to be our opportunity to show the country what we can do together to address the really difficult issues that are on people's minds. And certainly the solvency of Social Security is one of those really difficult issues that are on everybody's mind. So let's get to it, let's fix it, and let's move on, because we've got lots of other both problems and opportunities. And let's get to those. Let's get this out of the way. And I would propose to get this out of the way early in my term.
You've talked about this being sort of three options, if you will, that the taxes, the retirement age, and doing nothing. In your mind, what is the cost of doing nothing?
Insolvency for Social Security, or a massive tax increase that will lead to even more stagnant job growth and wage growth in the United States. And I will tell you, there's no senior who wants to see their child or their grandchild not being able to get a job, making less money because of a stagnant economy. So seniors want us to deal with Social Security, not only because they depend upon it, but also they want us to deal with it because they're responsible Americans. And they care about our country, not just about themselves, but about the whole country and about their children and grandchildren, what kind of future they're going to have.
What's your sense of how important this issue is and the sense of urgency needed to do something about it sooner rather than later?
Well, I think the sense of urgency is real amongst people because they also know that 71% of all federal spending now is on entitlements and debt service. We know we can't continue that way. That's not investing in America's future. And so we need to make sure that we turn this around a bit so that we free up more money to invest in our national defense, to invest in coming up with the next cures and treatments for diseases that are haunting Americans every day. Those are the things we need to invest in to make America a cutting-edge country. And unless we deal with a 71% of every dollar being spent on entitlements and debt service, we're not going to be able to deal with that.
Governor Chris Christie, we really appreciate you sitting down with AARP New Hampshire and talking about these issues.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the time.